Good morning. Good morning. What's up? What's up? Hope you guys are doing well. Today is Wednesday, November the 5th. Overall markets ended up rejecting off key levels yesterday. Kind of had this pop and fade off of your previous level of support turn into resistance. And the overall markets ended up filling the gaps towards the downside. So any gaps that we did have on the major indices on the SPY and Qs, we filled the gap towards the downside. Now we're currently at our previous all-time highs level. So we'll see if the market does want to potentially have a bounce off your previous all-time highs level. We'll see if the buyers do want to step in off this general area. We'll go over kind of the levels that we're looking at coming into today here, specifically for the NQ. Before we do that, what's up, everyone? Good morning. Yeah, what's up, everyone? Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Good morning, Victor, Willie, Robert. What's up, Dragon? 50. Good morning, Wayne, Hector, Deuce, Martin, Enlisted, Rez, Cinna, I am Deuce. Yeah, what's up, everyone? Hope you guys are doing well. Let's go on to the major indices and we'll get started here. Okay. So yeah, coming into the markets, as you can see here, specifically yesterday here for the ES, key levels, we had a couple key levels actually. That we had that full gap fill we had marked out, plus we had this previous level of support, which was very key. As you can see, we had multiple touches here on the ES, one touch here, two touch, three touch. You can see markets dropped, came back up for the retest, ended up fading nicely off this level, which was our 68.50. And then we end up having this nice continuation towards the downside, straight towards our gap fills I've created. So for the ES, of course, if you're looking at this week's price action, right, we're leaning more towards the downside based off the higher time frames too. Let's actually get a bigger outlook here now on the weekly time frame. I think this is going to give us a little bit more of a bigger term perspective here. But as you can see, the overall market is still bullish here on the daily chart. Right, the daily chart is still bullish because we are building up these higher lows. And really, this is the impulsive move that we broke towards the upside. So intraday now on the lower time frames, right, we're bearish, right? Specifically on the 1 hour time frame, we're bearish and we're leaning more towards the downside. Based off the daily chart, we're still technically bullish because we're above our key higher lows. So now in this case, a lot of the trades are just going to be based off of intraday price action, right? When the daily time frame is bullish, when the 1 hour is bearish, right, you're just going to be looking for trades intraday, and you're just going to be looking for more kind of key levels. You're going to be scaling at key levels here as well. So if we're looking at this on the hourly chart, I would consider ES bearish, right? As I mentioned, hourly chart's bearish, daily chart's still bullish. At least for me, key levels moving forward is going to be your previous all-time highs, as you can see right here. So let me actually just change out this color. So at least coming into this morning, key levels that we have marked out is just going to be this previous all-time high, sorry, which is your 6810. So as you can see here, so far, some buyers stepping in here off your 6760s. This is really the key level moving forward, 6810. If we can see the reclaim back above your 6810, potentially we can see a reversal here in the overall markets. If we maintain underneath this 6810, then we're just going to continue right back down in towards our previous day lows and our after hours lows that we have created. So as you can see here for the ES, this is what we have coming into today. I'd much rather look at the NQ since that has been the leading indice the past couple of weeks. So really the NQ, the levels are a little bit more cleaner in my opinion. And the levels have been respecting a lot better, specifically on the NQ and the QQQ. As for the SPY, as you can see, we're just back into this previous all-time highs level. So currently coming into today, as you can see, previous level of resistance. Now we'd like to see this level turn into support. If you can maintain above really this previous all-time highs, I do expect the markets to potentially have a mean reversion here. If we get underneath it, then we're going to see some more downside. So you can see tap in the pre-market yesterday, multiple touches in the after hours along with the pre-market here. If you can maintain above your previous all-time highs, which as you can see, if I zoom out, a very key level here on the overall markets. All right, this is sorry, this is exactly where you want to see the buyer step in for a potential mean reversion back towards the upside. Ultimately, if you break underneath, potential mean reversion down in towards that 660, that's 668. So yeah, going on to lower time frames, we're just going to be keeping an eye on this key level coming to market open, maintain above, potential previous day low bounce for continuation. For some downside, it will be consolidation underneath your previous all-time highs, retest of this level for a potential move back down in towards next key levels, which will be your 670 along with your 668. So this is what I have for the SPY coming into today. The level is fairly clear. It's just going to be your previous all-time highs. Now let's go on to the NQ chart. So as you can see right here, for the NQ, this is basically the area that we broke out from. As you can see, we had multiple touches. Once we broke out, had a really nice continuation higher. Now we're coming back down essentially for the retest of your previous all-time highs. So on the NQ, so far you can see that buyers are stepping in off this general area, indicated by these lower wicks. Had another low reaction here as well. If we do want to see a reversal, we like to see it now maintain above your 25, essentially this previous level of resistance now turn into support. On the higher time frames, if we ultimately do not hold this level, then we can see a bigger move towards the downside, targeting your 20, basically this 25,000. So this is a very key level here for the NQ coming into today and moving forward. It is your previous all-time highs. So we want to have this marked out coming to market open, and then we can also have marked out now. It's just going to be your previous day highs. That's going to be a key level here as well. So a few scenarios coming into today. Number one, pop and fade for a push towards the downside. Another scenario, if we drop, hold underneath your previous all-time highs for continuation towards the downside. So if you're looking for shorts, you really want to look for the previous day lows to hold, or for price to get underneath this previous all-time highs. If you want to see a mean reversion here in the overall markets, really it's going to now be above your 25,560, which in this case is your previous day lows. You essentially like to see the previous day low reclaim if you want to see any sort of momentum potentially back up and towards the upside. So this is what you're going to have marked out coming into today. As for the QQQ chart, key levels that we can have marked out now on the Qs, let's actually just get rid of a couple key levels. But for the Qs, coming into market open, similar thing. This is your previous all-time highs here on the overall markets. Really, you like to see this level hold for continuation higher. We end up already hitting this level here in the pre-market, just based off, in the overnight session, based off of the NQ chart. So that's sometimes good to have more information because in this case, technically, we already retested it in the overnight session, but it doesn't seem like we did here in the after hours and pre-market, just because market's already back at your previous day lows. So coming to market open today, exact same game plan. Mark out your previous day highs. So your previous day lows, which is your 617. If you want to see some more downside, pop and fade off this level for a push down in towards your your previous all-time highs, which is your 613. Kind of similar to its previous day, you look for the pop and fade, You want to see the rejection off your previous day lows for continuation down in towards your previous all-time highs. Of course, another scenario underneath your previous all-time highs for a continuation lower. But in this case, this one is fairly far away. So I'd much rather be interested in the previous day low reject if I was looking for a short position coming into market open. If we want to go long, exact same thing. It would be the reclaim, Reclaim back above your 617 for a potential mean reversion in the overall markets. That's going to be above your 618 here for the QQQ. Alrighty. So yeah, coming into today here for the overall indices, specifically the SPY and Qs themselves. Let me actually pull up the Forex factor here as well. So we do have a few red folder news events actually coming right into market open. So at least for some of the news events that we actually have some news events in about 3 minutes here, which is ADP non-farm enrollment. We also have ISM, which is going to be at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then later into today, we do have President Trump speaking as well. So that's something to keep in mind. We'll just wait for the next couple of minutes to see how this affects the overall indices and market itself. But currently, as I mentioned, right, at least coming to market open, the levels are fairly clear. It's just going to be your previous all-time highs here for both the SPY and the QQQ in this case. Okay. Now let's go on to some of the tech names that we have here as well. We'll start off on Nvidia. I'm just going to grab some water here. Yeah, what's up, everyone? Hope you guys are doing well. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the daily watch list, of course, that is in the description below as well. Okay, let's first start off on Nvidia here. So Nvidia is now just coming back for your previous all-time high. So we kind of talked about this one. Potentially, if it breaks underneath your 202, next level here is just going to be straight back up and towards your all-time highs. In this case, it's your 196. So nice break above. Once it broke back underneath, that's your key level, 196. And now you can see so far some buyers stepping in right off your key level. So this is your very much key level of support that ended up turning into resistance, pushed all the way back down now in towards your previous all-time highs. Now, this is exactly where we'd like to see the buyer step in for a potential kind of reversal back towards the upside. So key level coming into today is going to be your previous all-time highs, which you can see we do have multiple touches here in the pre-market. Other levels now that we can have marked out is just going to be your previous day close. So for Nvidia coming into today, you have a couple long scenarios. Number one, break above, reclaim back above your previous day lows for potential move back towards upside. Another possible scenario now here as well is your bounce off your previous all-time highs for a potential move back up and towards your previous day lows and above. If you do want to see some more downside here on Nvidia, which currently you can see we do have a lot of weakness, right? You can be looking for the potential pop and fade off of your previous day lows. This is a very key level. Or now you'd be waiting for price to break underneath your pre-market lows along with this previous all-time highs level for a potential continuation lower. So for Nvidia coming to market open, number one key level, keep an eye out on your previous day lows. And then you also want to keep an eye out on your previous all-time highs here as well. Let's go on to Tesla. So overall, Tesla had a nice push towards the upside on Monday, ultimately dropped with the overall markets here on Tuesday. Nice kind of pop and fade, came all the way up in towards key levels, rejected, and came all the way back down in towards the low of the range, which in this case was our 440. Now you can see kind of buyers stepped in off this 440, and now we're back up in towards its previous day's range. So coming into today here for Nvidia, for Tesla, key levels that we're going to have marked out is going to be this 449. Really not too much to talk about on a lot of these tickers, just because now they're just going to move with the overall indice themselves. You'd much rather trade the SPY and Qs if you're going to look for any sort of intraday setups, just because that's leading the market. You can see almost every single ticker is going to look fairly similar to the SPY and Qs, with the exception of Apple, just because you can see Apple was the only green ticker in the overall markets yesterday. But for everything else, they're just following along with the SPY and Qs themselves. So if you're going to trade anything recently, the SPY and Qs have had the best opportunities, specifically the NQ itself. But key levels coming to market open, we're just going to draw kind of your previous day's range for essentially this 449. You could draw this for 54 here as well. As for Tesla, really not too much to talk about, as I mentioned. Potential kind of bounce here off your 450 for a move up towards your 454. Break underneath. Potentially you could see your previous day lows here and below. So keep an eye on your 450 coming to today. If you just zoom out, right, you can kind of tell. Right, not really clear direction here on the hourly chart, right? We are building up higher lows, as you can see, but overall, right, it hasn't been as clear, right? There hasn't been a super clear trend here on the hourly chart, especially after yesterday, where we ended up gapping down and continued lower. It kind of broke structure towards the downside. Let's go into Apple. Let me actually grab some water here. All right, let's go on to Apple. So really coming to today, Apple's still a ticker that is holding up here on the higher time frames. Recently had earnings as well. This one basically came down in towards our key levels, which is essentially this earnings day low. And we also have your previous all-time highs here as well. So for Apple, first day kind of faded after earnings. And you can see this is the key reclaim level if you want to see any sort of continuation higher. So currently you can see Apple reclaim yesterday, basically holding above your Friday's lows. So if you do want to see any sort of continuation higher, it's going to have to maintain above your 269. If you can maintain your 269, potential, as I mentioned, reversal here in play. If we break back underneath, then we're just going to go right back down in towards your previous day lows here and below. So your Friday's lows is going to be the key level to keep an eye out on Apple coming into this morning. As for AMD, this one recently had earnings, which was yesterday with kind of Palantir. That was the main earnings. The Palantir earnings, that's basically what kind of started this drop on the overall market, specifically on yesterday and this morning, kind of the sell-off as well, which is Palantir earnings and its guidance. But for AMD, nice consolidation, finally broke underneath. Now you can see we're having a little bit of a pullback. Key levels that we have marked out is going to be this 244. So 244 is key here for AMD. Right. Also, your earnings low here as well, your previous all-time highs. If we want to see a potential reversal back above your 244, for a potential move back up in towards your 250s and above. If we reject off this level, then potentially we can see your pre-market lows now and below. So that's going to be the key levels for AMD, coming into market open. Keep an eye out on your 244 here on this ticker. I'll be a little bit more patient, right? Wait for that first kind of 50 minutes to play out. Just because, right, we just recently had our earnings. IV, basically, the move was only 3%. So the contracts are going to get crushed right off the bat. I'll just let the IV cool off for the first kind of 5 minutes. And then potentially you could be looking for a trading opportunity on this one. As for Amazon, key levels that we have marked out is your previous all-time highs. As you can see here, for Amazon, we've had multiple touches kind of off this 255. Nice bounce yesterday, and then ultimately another rejection here as well. So for Amazon, we're still bullish, but we kind of like to see these higher lows be built and then eventually have something like a flat top break for continuation towards upside above your 255. If that's the case, then we could see a nice move on Amazon. But as I mentioned, higher lows be built for a potential move back higher. So this is what we have coming to market open. If we do break underneath your 250, a potential reversal here is in play down in towards it's going to be there's 244 here and below. So keep this in mind if we're trading Amazon. As for Google, another one that recently had earnings, it's now going to come back down in towards that earnings low, as you can see here. Now, if you do want to see a reversal back, you're going to have to reclaim back above your earnings day low, which is this 280. So 280 reclaim, potential reversal here in the overall markets. If we maintain underneath, we're just going to see some more continuation lower. So this is what we have for Google coming into market open. As for a few other tickers, not too much to talk about here. And Microsoft underneath now your earnings as well. Let's actually kind of go back onto the overall markets and pull up the Forex Factory. Okay, so we recently had ADP non-farm enrollment. Really didn't affect the market too much, right? Forecasted was 32K. Came in higher than expected, but doesn't seem like the overall indices are affected here after the pretty big move we've had towards the downside. We'll see if we get a bigger reaction here with ISM services later today, which is going to be at 10 a.m. And then, of course, as I mentioned, we do have President Trump speaking later in the day, which is going to be at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But yeah, as for Netflix, not really too much to talk about here as well. So now for the rest of the tickers, I'll take a look at some of these names for the next kind of 5 to 10 minutes here. And then I will get ready for market open. So if you guys do have any tickers or any charts, you guys can now drop them in the chat. Okay. Yeah, if you guys do have any tickers or any charts you'd like me to go over, I'll kind of go over a couple of them for the next kind of 5 to 10 minutes. If you guys are enjoying this so far, of course, if you guys could drop a like, appreciate it. If you guys haven't joined the daily watch list, that one is also in the description below as well. So first things first, let's kind of talk about Palantir here, since this is really what's kind of been affecting some of the AI and really affecting the market and is kind of pulling back. So basically for Palantir, right? So we recently just had earnings. Dropped this one right back in towards a key level of resistance. Now we'd like to see essentially turn into support for a potential move back towards the upside. So if you go back into lower time frames here, the key level is, as you can see, this previous all-time highs, 188. So for Palantir, pretty sharp kind of pullback right down in towards your 188. You can see buyers stepped in yesterday right off the bat, ultimately faded. Now for Palantir, we really like to see it maintain above your 188 if you want to see any sort of continued push back towards the upside. If we do break underneath, which currently we are, and hold underneath and maintain underneath, potentially we can see a bigger mean reversion in the markets back down in towards our last week's lows. Right, this would be a very big drop, but overall, right, with this pretty big push down on earnings, right, we're going to keep an eye on your 188 here on Palantir, because it very much well could kind of reverse back towards the downside if the market wants to head down lower as well. But that's going to be the key level coming to today here for Palantir. Keep an eye on your 188. If we maintain underneath, as I mentioned, see continuation lower. If we see this mean reversion, right, potentially we can kind of come back in between yesterday's range. Of course, the best longs now are going to occur back above your 195. So I don't think it's going to set up a longs today. Of course, you can always scalp it for a move higher, but the best longs now is going to eventually come back up above your previous day highs. But Palantir is very key to keep an eye out on, as I mentioned, just because this one had earnings, and that's really what kind of started the market drop towards the downside. As for AVGO, key level is your previous all-time highs, 372. Oracle has just been weak, so this one mentioned full gap fill. This has been one of the nicer ones to short towards the downside, just because, right, showing relative weakness compared to the overall markets. And now you can see we're coming back down for that full gap fill. So nice kind of pop and fade off your previous day lows. And then we came back down, and now we actually filled that full gap here in the pre-market session. Let's see. A few other tickers. Let me go over SoFi. So as for SoFi, this one is really holding up compared to the overall markets. It's not the cleanest, but higher time frame levels are now still being respected, right? Previous levels of resistance turning into support. We like to see now SoFi kind of continue back higher. If you look at this on the daily time frame, really this one is actually due for a pullback. Eventually, so far we are still holding, but you have a lot of liquidity being built up towards the down. We do have a lot of liquidity being built up towards the downside, so I wouldn't be surprised if we do eventually break this, but I do expect this to eventually just get bought right back up, since it is fairly bullish here on the higher time frames. But as for SoFi, right, at least intraday price action wise, right, keep an eye out on your earnings low plus your earnings high, right? These are going to be your key levels moving forward. Anything in between here, in my opinion, is going to be a little bit more difficult to trade. You really want to be trading at the top of the ranges or at the bottom of the ranges. Yeah, Trump is speaking today as well. As for MU and TSM, these ones are still holding up compared to the overall markets. As you can see for SMH, this one, right, previous level of resistance now turning into support. So higher time frames, this is exactly where you want to see it bounce. As for MU and TSM, similar thing, right? Higher time frames still very much bullish on most of these tickers. Now it's just really based off the overall markets if we do want to see any sort of bounce here on the overall indices themselves. But let me go back onto the let me go back onto the major indices, and then we'll kind of develop our game plan coming to market open. So as you can see here, coming to market open, right, this is your previous level of resistance now turned to support. So in my opinion today, I think shorts are going to be a little bit more difficult unless we can get underneath your previous all-time highs. So as you can see here, right, we're kind of coming down into a key level of support, as I mentioned. So shorts intraday, unless we can get the nice rejection off of your previous day lows, right, I would be a little bit more cautious on shorts, right? Shorts are only in play if we reject, which would be more aggressive, or if price got underneath your previous all-time highs. So keep an eye out on your previous day lows coming to market open. If we can break back above your previous day lows and reclaim, potentially we can see a little bit more of a mean reversion back up and towards your 25,700. Exact same kind of game plan here for the SPY. It's basically your previous all-time highs level. If we reject kind of off this previous day low general area and this level as well, potentially you can see some more downside here. If we reclaim, then we can see a little bit of a mean reversion. So for shorts, I'll be a little bit more cautious, at least right off the bat, kind of similar to yesterday, right? Just wait for the first kind of 10 to 15 minutes to play out on the overall markets. For SPY, right, these are the levels we have marked out. For Qs, we're actually above your previous day lows. So as I mentioned, shorts, you're going to have to get back underneath for a potential continuation lower. or now it's really going to be underneath your pre-market lows or underneath your previous all-time highs. As for longs, you really like to see price reclaim, hold above your previous day lows for potential mean reversion back towards upside. So those are the levels that we have marked out coming into today. Let me just readjust this level. So this is the level that we actually have here for the NQ. As for some of my top watches coming to market open, I do like a couple names for a mean reverse. A lot of these ones are reversal setups. So in this case, something like Nvidia, it would be more of a reversal based off this previous all-time highs, looking for potentially this bounce play back towards upside. Key levels on a lot of these tickers are just going to be your previous day close. So in today, right, just keep an eye out on your previous day close here on Nvidia for a push higher. If we get underneath, we can see a reversal towards the downside. Tesla, similar thing. Apple, we'll keep an eye out on your previous day highs here now as well. As for the rest of the tickers, really it's just going to be based off the overall markets. So yeah, at least coming to market open today, it's just going to be based off the overall indices themselves. During this case, right, you don't want to have a bias. So, right, be open to playing both sides, just waiting for the markets to react off key levels, right? No bias, primarily just looking for, right, day trades in the markets. Besides that, yeah, so my main watches today, SPY and Qs themselves off of your previous day lows. And then I do like Nvidia potential, right? Reclaim back above your previous day lows. Tesla looks decent here as well. I do like Nvidia a little bit better. Apple potentially the only green ticker yesterday on the day. And then potentially we can keep an eye out on AMD for maybe an earnings reversal trade on day number one for a potential move back towards upside. So we'll keep an eye out on those ones coming to market open. As for everything else, let me quickly scan through once more. Hood still kind of somewhat holding up, but yeah, at least coming to market open. My main watch, as I mentioned, is just going to be the SPY and Qs themselves off the key levels that we do have marked out, which is your previous day lows, and then we'll keep an eye out on Nvidia, AMD, and we'll also keep an eye out on Apple here as well. But as I mentioned, during these times, don't have a bias, right? You want to have a soft bias, if anything, coming to market open. We're open to playing both sides in the markets. You don't have a hard bias during these times, just because the higher time frames isn't as clear as we talked about earlier into this session. But yeah, that is going to be it for me today. Hopefully you guys did enjoy that. If you did, appreciate if you guys drop a like. And of course, if you guys haven't joined the watch list, that's in the description below. And then I'll see you guys all tomorrow. All right. Take care, everyone. Peace.